When the MotoGP paddock left Misano, all the headlines were screaming about Marc Marquez and his relentless march toward a 7th Premier Class crown. But buried beneath that triumph was a much darker story, the complete unravelling of Ducati's most decorated rider, Francesco Bagnaia. The Italian left his home circuit not just without points, but without answers, and the questions around his future are now echoing louder than ever. Pecco's San Marino weekend carried some extra intrigue with Casey Stoner's presence in the Ducati garage. The 2007 world champion, remembered for taming a notoriously volatile Desmos Adichie, took a hands-on role. He was poring over telemetry data and offering his famously sharp feedback. Pecco later admitted something telling. "This morning I saw him working on the bike. He once told me he wanted to be an engineer. He has an incredible eye for detail." The Italian confessed his frustration that Stoner can't be around more often. He described their bond as natural thanks to their shared ideas and Stoner's strong connection with crew chief Christian Gabbirini. In Pecco's own words, "When Casey Stoner is there, he makes the difference." Yet despite all that optimism and legendary input, Stoner's presence proved no magic fix. Pecco's crash in the San Marino GP marked his second DNF of the year, another unforced error at exactly the time when Ducati desperately needed stability from their double world champion. Pecco's own words after the crash revealed just how deep this crisis has become. "I'm living a nightmare. There must be something major making me a second and a half slower. My patience is running out." That nightmare has persisted throughout the entire 2025 season. Since his podium at Sachsenring before the summer break, Pecco has scored just 40 points across 5 rounds. In that same span, Marc Marquez collected 168 points, Marco Bay, Zecchi managed 99, Pedro Acosta grabbed 89, and even Alex Marquez scored 69. The gulf isn't just numerical anymore, it's become deeply psychological. Pecco, who was once Ducati's undisputed talisman, is now completely overshadowed by a teammate who has adapted seamlessly to the GP25. Marquez's tally of 11 victories has already matched Pecco's entire 2024 output. He stands on the brink of clinching the title at Motegi, while for Pecco, the championship fight evaporated months ago. At Misano, Ducati insiders finally dropped their most candid assessment yet. A senior source told motorsport.com something brutal. The answer to that question lies only with him. "We want to help, but he must let us. He cannot be the last of the Ducati riders. Pecco is much better than that." But then came the real knife twist. The issue isn't Marc beating him, that's understandable and acceptable. The real problem is that the others are now more consistent than him. Those lines cut straight to the heart of the matter. Ducati can accept losing to Marquez. He's a generational talent and his resurgence is driving the brand to new heights. What they absolutely cannot accept is watching their most successful rider getting beaten regularly by customer Ducati riders. We're talking about Fabio Di Giannantonio, Alex Marquez, even Franco Morbidelli consistently outperforming the factory rider. Ducati's general manager Gigi Dall'Igna was brutally blunt after Misano. Pecco's patience has run out, and so has ours, and that of the fans who follow him. The contrast within Ducati couldn't be starker right now. Marquez gets celebrated as the undisputed king of 2025. While Pecco gets shielded from the press, left to explain yet another crash behind closed doors. The symbolism is absolutely devastating. Here's what's really happened. Ducati has completely stopped framing his slump as a technical issue. They've concluded it's psychological, a confidence crisis that only Pecco himself can solve. The factory has effectively washed its hands of responsibility for his struggles. That's exactly why the idea that Ducati can somehow rescue him is now completely off the table. His survival in Ducati Red depends entirely on his own ability to mentally reset and find his speed again. If he doesn't manage that turnaround, even the most loyal of factories may soon start prioritizing other riders, especially with a wild rider market looming for 2026 contracts. Pecco's collapse has reduced his targets to pure damage limitation at this point. With 237 points, he's not chasing Marc Marquez's commanding 512 or even Alex Marquez's solid 330. Instead, he's looking nervously over his shoulder at Marco Bezzecchi, who sits just 8 points behind in 4th place. Bezzecchi has scored 5 podiums in the last 7 races and is riding with complete freedom on the Aprilia. The numbers tell a brutal story. Pecco is actually closer to falling into 5th place than he is to catching Alex Marquez for 2nd. VR46's Morbidelli and Di Giannantonio are both within striking distance too. The two-time champion risks not only complete humiliation at the hands of Marquez, but also being demoted from Ducati's top priority in the rider market discussions. As one Ducati source perfectly summarised the situation, "It's acceptable for him to lose to Marc. The problem is losing to everyone else." That single sentence captures exactly how far Pecco has fallen from grace. The post-race Misano test did offer one tiny flicker of hope. Pecco was 6th fastest overall, even lapping quicker than Marquez in the afternoon session. He said, "I have to say it's not easy to figure out which direction to take, but we shifted the weight balance around, and I have to say we figured something out. I was super fast with 21 laps on the tyres. That's something I wasn't able to do in the last races." Once again, Casey Stoner was central to whatever progress they made. Pecco smiled when talking about it. "This morning when I arrived, I saw Casey working on the bike. It's fantastic to have this kind of relationship with him. They already knew what I felt on the bike. It was great feedback." But Daligna quickly poured cold water on any premature optimism. Monday's tests were important for trying some alternative solutions. But let's be clear, one day isn't enough to solve such a delicate situation. In other words, a single strong outing in testing won't erase the doubts of an entire season spiralling completely out of control. The Misano weekend perfectly epitomised Ducati's current paradox. On one side, Marc Marquez's 11th win of the year, achieved in a head-to-head duel with Bezzecchi, got hailed as proof of Ducati's total dominance. Daligna called it an exciting victory on a special track from the undisputed king of 2025. 5 Ducatis finished inside the top 6, confirming the absolute strength of their machinery. Yet Pecco, the rider who had defined the Ducati brand for the last 4 years, was completely absent from that celebratory picture. He was stuck in the garage, shielded from media, dissecting data with Stoner long after the race had ended. It felt like watching the passing of an era in real time. Japan looms as the ultimate test, not just for Marc Marquez's inevitable coronation, but for Pecco's mental resilience. If Bezzecchi overtakes him at Motegi, the optics will be absolutely catastrophic. Ducati may continue protecting him publicly, but privately, major decisions are already being weighed for the future. What are your thoughts on Bagnaia's dramatic downfall? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more MotoGP analysis.